Hello, I'm John Vandervarst. The goal of NISOA's Interscholastic Division is to help provide instructional material to NFHS high school soccer officials and coaches. For a small fee, any high school official can join and receive NISOA benefits. These include a newsletter, a preseason refresher examination, liability insurance, training materials for local chapters, and more. High school state organizations can utilize NISOA national clinicians to conduct train-the-trainer clinics for state and local interpreters. NISOA also has developed an assessment training program to teach individual assessors how to assess high school soccer referees. For additional information about NISOA's Interscholastic Division, or to learn more about the training available from NISOA, contact me. Again this year, we are working with Mark Koski, NFHS Director of Sports and Events, Bill Johnson, Chairperson of the NFHS Soccer Rules Committee, and Dr. Joe Mangione, NISOA Liaison to the NFHS and former Chairperson of the Soccer Rules Committee. This year's video includes opening comments by Mark Koski, a review of the rule changes by Bill Johnson, a question and answer session with Dr. Joe, and a short instructional section. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mark Koski, who will provide opening remarks.
The NFHS is proud to once again partner with NISOA to bring you this important rules interpretation video. Since 1920, the National Federation of State High School Associations has led the development of education-based interscholastic sports and activities that will help students succeed in their lives. We set directions for the future by building awareness and support, improving the participation experience, establishing consistent standards and rules for competition, and helping those who govern high school sports and activities. NFHS views this high school soccer rules interpretation video as an excellent training tool for all officials and coaches within our 51 member state associations. The NFHS and NISOA continue to work closely to improve the overall quality of officiating at the high school level. This video is only one aspect of the many joint projects and training that the NFHS and NISOA produce. One example is a rules difference guide that is produced annually by NISOA. This describes the major rules differences between high school, college, and the international rules and laws, and is included in the NFHS Soccer Rules Book. I would encourage officials to review this guide on a regular basis so that they do not misinterpret a rule and have a potential for a grievance. The NFHS has a number of online courses available on nfhs.org for officials and coaches. We recommend utilizing these resources for improved skills. NFHS staff is committed to increase the availability of courses and improve the overall quality of training. Enjoy the video, and thanks for your work with the students that we serve. Now here's Bill Johnson to review the 2013-14 rules changes.
Thank you, Mark. This year, the Rules Committee recommended 6 changes to the playing rules and 1 change to the definitions. The first change now allows coaches to give instructions to their teams when an injured player is being treated on the field. Rule 332B1 now reads that a coach or appropriate healthcare professional may not enter the field without approval from a referee. The Rules Committee felt that the enforcement of the old rule was not practical enough during an extended injury situation.
Referees shall have an obligation to deal with several items during an injury. First, if they feel the player is exhibiting signs or symptoms of a concussion, the player shall not return until the coach has received approval for the re-entry from a healthcare professional. Second, all players must remain on the field during the injury. However, they may go to the touchline and receive instructions. If the coach is allowed to enter the field, he or she may give instructions to the team while attending to the injured player. Once the injury is dealt with, the game should be restarted as quickly as possible. Also, the referee must make certain that the coach is only giving instructions and not making any remarks to the opponents or officials.
Rule 332 has been expanded to require players to report to the scorer or nearest official and be beckoned by the referee when entering the game after a goal is scored or when an injured player is removed from the field. This rule now reads, time for substitutions. Either team may substitute an unlimited number of players from the bench, provided they report per 3-4-1A when a goal is scored, and B when a player is injured and removed from the field. The previous 3-3-2 A, B, C, and D now become C, D, E, and F. In line with this rule change, 3-4-1B, Article 1, has been changed to indicate a substitute may enter the field of play at the beginning of a period without being beckoned by the referee. After a score, and when a player is injured and removed from the field, substitutes must be beckoned. This change promotes better game control.
When a player is injured and removed from the field or after a goal is scored, players do not have to report to the scorer prior to the ball becoming dead, but they do have to report to the scorer and be beckoned in by the referee before they can enter the field.
Rule 411C has been changed to indicate that when tape or similar material is applied externally to the socks, it must be of similar color as that part of the sock to which it is applied. More players are using excessive amounts of tape on their socks. This changes the look of the sock and can cause confusion and possibly give a player an advantage. This change eliminates the potential problems. Rule 12.8.1e has been modified to allow coaches to use electronic communication devices as long as they do not use these devices to communicate with on-field players. Section E has been changed so it deals with all types of electronic equipment, not just video or audio devices. The rule now reads that it is a caution to use electronic communication devices with the on-field players during play. Examples include amplifying devices, wireless communication devices such as a cell phone, headphones, personal digital assistants. Verbal communication is permitted.
The change allows the use of electronic devices on the sidelines so that if a coach on the bench wants to use a tablet-type device to capture video and then at halftime show players their rights and wrongs, they can now do that. They can also legally use a cell phone to communicate as long as they are not communicating with on-field players. This was a rules change that has been heavily requested.
The last changes to the playing rules include modifications of Rule 12.8.1F14 and 12.8.2D1. These two new rules changes indicate that if a player commits a foul while attempting to deny an obvious goal-scoring opportunity and the goal is scored, that player will be issued a yellow card. If the foul is considered serious foul play, or if a goal is not scored, the player who committed the foul will be issued a red card.
The committee does not want to penalize a team twice for the same play by having the goal scored against them, then to lose a player. On the other hand, when a red card is issued when the shot is missed, the team is still suffering just a single blow. This is a serious matter since the NFCAA has conducted extensive research on red cards and determined that a team playing short loses 68% of the time during regulation and 44% of the time in overtime.
Finally, in Rule 18.1.1N, the definition of a free kick becoming alive has been changed from touching of the ball by the kicker to the ball is in play when it has been kicked and moves. Simply tapping the top of the ball with the foot or stepping on the ball are no longer sufficient.
This occurs primarily during corner kicks and indirect free kicks near the attacking goal. The intent of the change is to eliminate trickery and confusion on restarts. There have been situations where a player taps the ball or steps on it and then a teammate runs on the ball and begins dribbling towards the goal or taking a shot for an indirect free kick. This change makes it easier for the referee and the opposing team to determine whether or not the ball is in play.
Each year, the Rules Committee determines what should be included in the points of emphasis. This is based on several factors, such as problems that occurred during games played the previous season. This year, there are 5 points of emphasis that I will address. First is when a goalkeeper is injured, the official may stop the clock to check on the injured goalkeeper during the game. If a coach or appropriate healthcare professional are not called onto the field, the goalkeeper may stay in the game.
This emphasis allows the official to ensure that the goalkeeper is not seriously injured without forcing the goalkeeper to leave the game. However, if the official beckons the coach or healthcare professional to come onto the field, the goalkeeper must be removed from the field. Remember, safety of all players is the key component in the high school game.
Time wasting sometimes becomes a problem late in the game when a team is ahead by 1 goal. Therefore, another point of emphasis is that when a team repeatedly substitutes to consume time, a referee shall order the timer to stop the clock during such substitutions and shall notify the coach of the offending team. A repetition may be construed as unsporting conduct. Next, there is a point of emphasis on player equipment. The home team shall wear white, solid jerseys and solid white socks with shorts of any color. When tape or similar material is applied to any sock, it must be similar in color to the sock. This will help create less confusion, which is the intent of the new uniform regulations.
The required white uniform for the home team is for varsity games only. The NFHS does not write playing rules for sub-varsity competition. This will create the potential of passing the previous varsity uniforms down to the sub-varsity teams. Also, the tape on the sock is critical. If one player wears different color tape, the teammates can locate him or her quickly on the field for passes. This creates an unfair advantage.
During a penalty kick, the player must not take a stutter step. The action must be continuous forward motion throughout the approach. The rule reads that once the kicker starts his or her approach toward the ball, he or she may not interrupt his or her movement. The last point of emphasis deals with concussion management. This is a duplicate of last year's point of emphasis on concussions. No athlete should return to sport or other at-risk participation when symptoms of a concussion are present and recovery is ongoing. On NFHS.org and in the rule book, there is the NFHS suggested guidelines for management of concussion. Coaches and officials should review this prior to the season.
This concludes the rule changes and points of emphasis. I will now turn it over to Dr. Joe, who will respond to several questions that are being sent in via text messaging. Bill will help out by reading the messages for us.
The first text message comes from Kira in Colorado. The game and clock is stopped and a player receives a caution. As the player is leaving, she commits another offense and is ejected. Can the player be substituted for, or does the team play short?
A substitution is allowed if the substitute was already beckoned on by the referee prior to the second offense. If the second offense occurred prior to beckoning of the substitute, the team must play short. It is a good idea when a caution is issued for officials to wait until the caution player leaves the field before beckoning the substitute.
Manny from Texas has a question about equipment and substitutions. Specifically, a player is instructed by the referee to leave the field for illegal equipment. What is the correct procedure?
Normally, play is stopped when the player is told to leave the field of play. The clock is stopped and the coach is given a caution for the first incident of illegal equipment. Subsequent cautions for illegal equipment are issued to the player. The player may be substituted for. However, the player who is removed cannot re-enter until the next legal substitution opportunity.
Our next text comes from Karen in Missouri. Is it mandatory to go over sportsmanship requirements before every game, or can the referee just check with the coaches to ensure that the teams will be properly equipped and conduct the coin toss?
Sportsmanship is a big part of interscholastic soccer, as indicated in Rule 5-2-2D. The referee is required to address good sportsmanship with the head coach and team captains before every game.
Rich in New Jersey states that he instructs the timer to turn the clock off at the last 2 minutes of each half and not to keep time during the overtime. This is his way of eliminating any controversy with a late goal being scored. Is this permissible?
No. If there is a visible timing device, the official timer will maintain it and count down the last 10 seconds of each half and overtime. By mutual agreement of the coaches or state high school adoption, the head referee may keep the official time on the field for the entire game.
We just received a text from Wendy in Maryland, who is concerned that her assigner is not providing her quality games. This started when she turned back a game with an email message to him the morning of the scheduled assignment.
Ethics and professionalism are a critical part of being a high school soccer official. It's my opinion that Wendy should have called the assigner when she discovered the problem. If she had spoken to him and gave her reasons, the assigner may have better understood the problem and would have had more time to make an adjustment. The assigner may not have read the email for several hours after it was sent, and therefore had little time to cover the assignment.
Our next message concerns the taking of a penalty kick. John in New York states that he has been a long-time soccer referee and is a little confused about the stutter step not being allowed on the penalty kick. What is considered a fair stutter step?
Once the kicker starts movement to the ball, he or she may not interrupt the movement. In other words, the kicker may hesitate slightly but cannot stop. A slight fake in the direction of the kick by the kicker's foot is permissible as long as the kicker continues non-interrupted forward movement. Total deception is not in the spirit of the game or permitted.
It appears that Nancy, spelled with an I, from Connecticut, is concerned about goalkeeper injuries. She asks if a goalkeeper is slightly injured and the referee stops play and the clock, must the goalkeeper be removed from the game?
No. The referee can stop the clock and check to see if the goalkeeper is only slightly injured and take a few moments to ensure that he or she is all right. If the goalkeeper is not seriously injured, the game can be restarted and the goalkeeper can remain on the field. It is important to remind everyone here that if one team was clearly in possession of the ball, the restart is an indirect free kick. Care must be taken by the referee to ensure that the goalkeeper is not seriously injured or showing any signs of a possible concussion. If these symptoms appear, the coach or trainer should be beckoned onto the field, and then the goalkeeper must be removed.
Here is the first message from the southern part of the country. Hermano wants to know the correct procedure for this situation. As a referee, he hears a player using insulting or discriminatory language directed at an opponent. It is said softly, and the only reason the referee heard it was because he or she happened to be close by. Is the correct procedure to ignore it, give the player who made the statement a verbal warning while play continues, or stop the game and clock and caution the player?
None of these. Insulting language, which includes discriminating comments, is an ejection, and the team must play short. This type of behavior is not permitted in the high school game. Remember, the player represents the school, and school administrators and the NFHS encourage good sportsmanship. This is clearly not proper behavior.
The Kipster from Ohio has a concern about substitutions during an injury situation. Can one team substitute 2 players and the other 3, or must they be a like number? Also, since the substitutions are coming from the bench, is there a good mechanic for ensuring the correct number of players are on the field when play resumes?
When the clock is stopped for the injury, each team may substitute an unlimited number of players. This is not a one-for-one ruling. The new rule change that takes place this year requires substitutes entering during an injury dead ball to report to the scorer or the nearest official and be beckoned in by the referee. This should ensure the correct number of players will be on the field at the start of play and therefore should no longer be a concern.
Our last message comes from Shelley in Washington State. She wants to know if a player who has been removed from the game due to injury or illegal equipment can be allowed back on the field of play by the referee while play is in progress.
This is not permitted. An injured player may enter at the next stoppage of play only if their team is playing shorthanded. If the player was bleeding, the referee must ensure the bleeding has stopped and there is no blood on the uniform. For illegal equipment, the player may re-enter at the next legal substitution opportunity, provided the illegal equipment has been corrected.
Thanks, Dr. Joe. These text messages have raised some interesting questions for Dr. Joe. Being a student of the rule book, like Dr. Joe, is very important. Each referee should review the rules on a regular basis. If an unusual play or incident were to occur, the referee would be prepared and would not become flustered or unsure of the decision. Knowledge of the rules is one of the most important aspects of a quality referee. When I began my soccer officiating career years ago, new referees were taught a few acronyms. For example, a player must be cautioned if they were a dupe, dissent, unsportsmanlike conduct, persistent infringement, and entering and exiting the field without permission. If a player was a real problem, the referee needed to VAP them. Violent conduct, serious foul play, abusive or foul language, and persistent misconduct after receiving a caution. The last acronym we were taught was C: safety of the players, equality in officiating, and enjoyment for everyone. For the next few minutes, I want to spend some time on the S in C: safety of the players. The NFHS considers player safety to be the #1 issue in all sports. Within the game of soccer, there are several rules to ensure player safety. Before the start of each game, the coach is asked by the referee if the players are properly equipped. This is the first step on game day to ensure safety. Referees are provided extensive training on the need to ensure safety and protect all participants from injuries. It is critical that referees allow every player the opportunity to exhibit their skills and be safe from any injury which might be a result of reckless play by others. Reckless play that results in an injury to a player or opponent is a caution. Players in the heat of the moment engage in behavior that is not always acceptable. Oftentimes this occurs when the best player on the opposition has the ball and is attacking the goal. The attacker has every right to exhibit his or her skills. Any opponents tackling in a reckless manner or committing a foul that can cause an injury must be cautioned, or if it is excessive, penalized with an ejection for serious foul play. Another area of player safety is equipment. The NFHS rulebook is very clear on what is illegal equipment. Referees must enforce every aspect of Rule 4. No interscholastic referee has the right to ignore illegal equipment for any reason. Shin guards must have the NOXI seal, be age appropriate, and be no more than 2 inches above the ankle. Shoes must not have cleats that can be dangerous. No jewelry, with the exception of a medical alert or religious medal, may be worn. The medical alert or religious jewelry must be taped in accordance with the rule. That is a very simple statement, but yet every year problems arise because jewelry was worn. This is becoming a bigger issue as more games are being televised and high school players are viewing higher level games with teams wearing all types of jewelry. The argument is that why is it that players on TV wear earrings and I cannot? I once heard an official respond very professionally that the player can wear the earring as long as they did not come on the field to play. The message was delivered. Referees can check on players before stopping the clock to see if the injury is serious enough to call the coach or trainer onto the field. As Bill Johnson mentioned earlier, if it is the goalkeeper, the referee can stop the clock and allow the goalkeeper some time to see if he or she can continue in the game. This ensures that the goalkeeper is not participating in the game if he or she is seriously injured. Recently, there have been several articles published regarding concussions and potential long-term effects from sports injuries. coaches and trainers are responsible for making sure players are not participating in a game when injured so that permanent damage is avoided. With regard to concussions, NFHS has worked with sports medicine staffs and developed protocols for dealing with players who have or suspected to have a concussion. These protocols must be followed to ensure the player does not suffer long-term damage. No one should be playing the game of soccer that exhibits any symptoms of a concussion. Refresher training on symptoms and treatments for concussions is a must for every high school official on an annual basis. A coach must never sacrifice the long-term abilities of a star player just to have them play in one game when they are injured. Referees have the responsibility to remove the injured player or player with a concussion off the field, and coaches are responsible to see that the player receives appropriate treatment and is not put back in the game until cleared by an approved medical professional. If a serious injury occurs, the referee must stop the game immediately, get medical assistance for the player, and not rush the trainer or coach to have the player removed from the field so that the game can be restarted. The clock is stopped, and everything must be done to ensure that the player's injury is not intensified because of movement without proper treatment. If it is necessary to wait for an emergency vehicle, so be it. Wait. No game is so important that a player's safety is compromised. Referees should document the number of the player injured and the time of the injury. This is needed in the event that there are post-game questions about the injury or incident. This concludes the 2013-14 NFHS Rules presentation. I want to thank Mark Koski, Bill Johnson, and Dr. Joe Mangione for their assistance in this production and their untiring efforts to the NFHS and high school soccer. I wish each and every high school soccer official a great and safe season.